What is up, guys? It is Stu, and it is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. I've got my friend and colleague, Justin McClintock, hailing from Philly, on the podcast. Justin's been on before, in which we jammed on how he had successfully transitioned into doing coaching and training, not only remotely, but in person inside of someone else's brick and mortar. He had his own, he's got his own LLC. He's got his own business set up. He's doing this. You've gone through ALP, Active Life Professional, Sean Pastuch's educational and kind of business coaching program. And we jammed on that. I know I'm going to tell everyone to go back and listen to it. None of these fuckers are going to do it. So Justin, if you would, for all these lazy fucks, would you give them the 2-minute kind of bring them up to date as to kind of how you got into that unique position? And then we'll bring them up kind of like to everything that's kind of transpired for you recently.
Yeah, 100%. So I started as a part-time CrossFit coach, worked my way up to full-time CrossFit director of programming, writing all the programmings, kind of, head coach position. Still wasn't satisfied with the coaching I was doing. Wanted more results out of people, wasn't satisfied with the money I was making. Transitioned to lots of one-on-one work. And as you said, founded my own business, made the LLC, made a deal with the owner, because really important to any coaches who want to do this, it has to be a win for the gym, it has to be a win for the owner, it has to be a win for the client. Everyone has to win if you're going to do this. So I could operate my own business in there, bring in people who would never walk into a CrossFit gym to train there, take people who are in group classes to one-on-one training, and grew that to it was the overwhelming majority of my business, both online, in person, and hybrid, all really specific one-on-one work there.
And real quick for everyone, what was the compensation, the split? How did that work with the owner? How were you compensating the owner for using his space?
I did a flat fee, which is my suggestion to coaches all the time. I know gym owners, and I know a lot of gym owners listen to this, may not love the idea, but wasn't doing a percentage. I basically said, there's a number. Anytime you see me, I want you to be happy that I'm here. What's the number that you need to make that happen? And it was 30 or 35 bucks a session. I said, great, perfect. Because if I'm underpricing myself like a moron, that shouldn't hurt the gym owner. If I'm charging 50 bucks a session and he's like, well, I want 40%, he's not going to be happy with whatever that 40% would be. He doesn't want 20 bucks, he wants 35. So I said, great, we'll give you 35. And then I can charge 150 bucks a session, and I'm also very happy.
Yeah, 100% at 150 bucks a session. All right, so life is going well. You and me got the opportunity a year ago when I was in town to hang out and got in a workout and got to see where you were running shop. And it was a cool, and I love those metropolitan urban spaces where there's nobody who would look at that building with all the all the hallways and be like, this is a great place for a gym, but you make it happen. Like, if you've ever been to like some of the New York gyms that are on 4 floors and it's laid out. I went and saw Mark Fisher Fitness's space, and it's such these crazy metropolitan buildings in high urban density centers. But that place I thought was very cool. I thought it was well done. Unfortunately, you are no longer there. Would you share with everyone what happened with that?
Yeah, well, the short story is I got 6 days notice that the gym was closing. We had a emergency coaches meeting, which is never good, right? There's never everyone's coming in for a meeting on a Saturday when we usually meet on Tuesdays. Like, I knew it was going to be bad, and we had canceled a field trip. We were actually supposed to go see a bunch of the ALP people out in Long Island. Like, we were taking a field trip, and we got the notice, field trip's off, coaches meeting is moved to Saturday. Well, this can't be good. And I expected we're changing compensation, or I expected we're eliminating some classes, or I expected, like, I knew business hadn't been going well for a while. There'd been a lot of struggles. I didn't expect the gym is closed effective Friday.
So tell me about it. So were these financial struggles residue and remainder from COVID?
I mean, COVID certainly knocked the gym on its butt. I think they lost 30 or 40% of the people, and they kind of never came back. There was a lot going on. The gym was a little lost too, like, came out of COVID, and then the owner decided maybe we don't want to be a CrossFit gym entirely. Maybe we want to do a little more like one-on-one training. I think, I know, highly inspired by my success, he kind of looked and said, well, Justin's making 3 times whatever anyone else in the gym is making. Maybe we should all be doing that. and started bringing people toward that and individual solutions, which is potentially a fine business model. The hard thing is if the people who came for CrossFit still want CrossFit, and they're going to leave. And I had a lot of, tearful goodbyes, and I understood. I was like, we're not doing what you came here for anymore. And I hope this is going to be cool, but this isn't why you're here.
It's a tough thing, and I've had the privilege of working with a good amount of Sean's gyms that are in the midst of that transition, where they were the typical group class micro gym, and now they're going to this this hybrid or this more personal training, individual design, whatever that looks like. It's the model's different, right? The operating model of it is completely different, and it's hard. Like I did that with CrossFit South End when I relocated to the new building, and I turned it into urban movement, completely different, unique belief in fitness, completely different style, vibe, feel, everything. And it was a bloodbath of cancellations. Lost so much money in a short period of time. Now, if you have the runway to withstand that storm, it worked out really well in the back end, but it takes a while. Did you have conversations with the owner? Because I know you, and one of the things I love about you, you have great business chops. I know, like when he started kind of having an identity crisis and kind of thinking about changing his thing, that boat rocks, and it can rock hard. And obviously, it didn't work out well. Did you have any conversations with him prior? Like, hey, that I like it, but you want to be careful how you rip that Band-Aid off.
I did, and looking back, I honestly wish I had done a little more. It's potentially a challenging position, even being kind of the big dog employee. I'm still an employee, right? Like I work for you, it's your business, and I'm going to give you a lot of benefit of the doubt. So he said, well, we're going to do this, and this is what we're going to change, and this is what's going to happen. And we did talk about like, okay, well, we're going to lose a bunch of people. Yeah, well, hopefully not too many. Right, but we're going to lose a bunch of people. And I wish we had gone through more benchmarks of like, so we're not going to make this transition until we're making at least this amount of money from the program. We're not going to change things, right? Because if we did, then as you just said, like we won't have the runway. The gym was already operating off of, I think, a loan. Like we were very, very close every month anyway. This is not the time to chase 40% of the people away. But I didn't. And I didn't because I was an employee and kind of like, all right, I believe you. I'm going to assume you've thought through some of this stuff and assume that we're on pretty solid ground because I don't know what the numbers are. And looking back, I wish I had been a little more proactive, treated it the way I treat my business.
Did the owner have, I've always been a big advocate for whoever like the key employees are, like whatever the leadership team looks like, having a very transparent numbers meeting at the first, my thing was always, it was the first Monday of every month. And we always look back at the numbers the previous month. Essentially, everything from high level macro data, P&L stuff down to like real granular, detailed based stuff, see where the money's going. 100% of the revenue came in this month and 30% went to payroll and 40% went to operating expenses and this amount went to me and this amount went to you guys. And you guys, was that a thing?
No, definitely not. I got some insight into numbers occasionally, but it wasn't that regular. And it was certainly to the point where I believe, he on the road to doing this, and I don't mean to like dissect everything, but he built a very successful one-on-one business himself. He's like, I'm going to do what Justin does. He did it. Incredible, like six-figure one-on-one training business. But he was the only one who could do it because the other coaches there weren't trained up enough. They didn't have the skills to lead the sessions, much less sell the sessions. So now he can't hand them off to anybody. I also think he wasn't paying himself a full rate or not paying himself for the sessions. So everything that came in from those one-on-ones were going right into the gym because the gym was in trouble. But now you can't hand that session to anybody. So now he has to service 25 one-on-ones a week and be the owner of a gym
To
and
make up for
oversee
the
staff
lack of revenue
development.
on the group side.
Yeah, it's two more hats when he was already wearing 9 hats the day.
Yeah, I hate that. And it's hard because it's like, it's a storm of like, this thing isn't going well. And if you really love it, then you stay on it, you fix it. You stay on it, you fix it. But if you don't love it anymore, and you're like, okay, I see what Justin's doing, right? And I find a lot of people, it's not really like everyone tells, oh, I do this because I'm passionate about it. Okay, until you're not making money, and my definition of burnout is repeated effort without the desired outcome. Because I know, I know you, me, Sean, like work our faces off, I wouldn't worry about any of us getting burnt out because we get the desired result out of it. We have compensation and fulfillment. And when one of those drops down, if you started no longer filling your cup, after a long enough timeline, no matter how that compensation is, that fulfillment's low. Same thing happens on the opposite. It sounds like what happened to this gym owner. Like compensation is so low, even though maybe running group and having a CrossFit gym or whatever it is was the fulfillment, it fucking sinks with that ship of compensation as well. And you go into the next thing. Okay, I'm going to try this next thing. But I thought you were passionate about that. No, you're passionate about doing something and getting compensated for it and making a difference. And you can make a difference in both those ways. So let's skip ahead. So you guys get this 6-day notice. I'm assuming membership got what, like a 5-day notice?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
They got yeah.
Okay.
It was almost going to be less than that. And we strenuously argued that the poor 6 a.m. Monday coach can't know the gym is closing and the members don't know. That's unfair.
Oh, yeah.
They
yeah,
have to
yeah.
know the next time members show up.
Yeah, that guy better have some really good public speaking chops on him if he
Yeah.
has to make the announcement. Let me bring it into the whiteboard, guys. I got okay. We got to chit chat.
One more thing as we cool down.
All right, so this was where do you go now? What is you and what's the first thing that you start thinking of is you start thinking, okay, well, I just got to recalibrate my business model here or land somewhere. What happened next?
Well, it was, I mean, initially, I'll admit it was scary and there was some panic. Amongst other things, I had bought tons of gear and just stored it in that place. Anytime I needed a thing for somebody, I was like, you know what, this person really needs a football bar. Like that's going to change the way they bench and everything. I'll buy a football bar. And they were very happy for me to store whatever I want there as long as, let everyone use it. So the first thing I did was walk around and just make a list of all of the shit I have to get out of the gym because the word was, so we close on Friday. Saturday, the landlord might come and take all the gear. Like we're walking away.
So he was fully just in default of the lease.
Or was planning on going into default or something. Like the word was, we're walking away. We're leaving all of the gear. Right. Like, okay, well, my gear can't stay here when that happens. So
yeah.
I'm not going to steal anything, but I'm going to walk around and make sure everything I own, I know what it is. And honestly, there's a bunch of stuff that I left there because like, where am I going to put this giant tumbling block? Like, I don't have anywhere to store it. I don't even know how to transport it. I guess this dies here.
Were you looking up storage units just to put everything in or a pod or something like temporarily or like whatever?
I looked up a few options. I'm fortunately, I have a really big dining room that we're not using, which is currently there's about 30% of a gym sitting in there. And my wife has been patient so far, though I've been informed that the patience is running thin. So we're going to figure out some storage solutions now.
That's why you're about to hop on a vacation. That's why you're about to take a vacation tomorrow to the Virgin Islands. You're like, okay,
yes.
I've turned the living room into a
huge pile of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 4 kinds of weight belts sitting here. What are we doing?
So at that point, are you like, I got to find another gym and do this similar thing, or am I going fully online?
Yes, it was a little bit freeing in some ways. So, and another thing, so I think the gym owner did that was very nice is he said, I've called a few gyms in the area. They know this is happening. And these 3 or 4 people are expecting a call from you if you want to call them. Like they're open to talking, which is cool because I had done a bad job networking with other gyms in my city. I like knew them. I would say like, hi in the DMs, but I hadn't gone and said hi to a bunch of gym owners. I wish I had done that. If you're listening, either gym owner or coach, you should know all the people who do what you do in your area. They're not your competition. Be friendly, learn their names because sometimes things happen. And so I made a bunch of calls, said, hey, it's Saturday at 10 a.m. I hear you heard I was losing my job before I found out I was losing my job, which is a little bit weird. Do you have time the next day or two where I could come in and chat? And I made basically like 4 or 5 appointments to sit down with gym owners. The thing that really helped is I had 25 or 30 online only clients at that point. And they weren't going anywhere. They weren't going to be affected by this at all. And it was saying, okay, so no matter what happens, I'm making $8,000 this month. I'm going to be okay. this also means I can kind of pick where I want to go. And I determined going in, I'm not going to coach another CrossFit class. I'm not going to coach any more group classes. I had to coach a few group classes even at the end there as part of I'm the head coach. I'm supposed to coach group classes. I got myself out of programming. I don't want to do any of that anymore. I only want to do this one-on-one feel strong work. So that's what I'm going to do. And having those online only clients let me do that because I was offered a bunch of group jobs and I turned them very politely, turned them all down.
And so every gym that you went and met with, could it make it work?
Several places offered me a deal that just wasn't good enough. Some places wanted a really big split. Some places were happy to let me do some one-on-one work, but they wanted me to coach this powerlifting program or write programming for this CrossFit class or coach X number of group classes a week, which I get. Two places that I'm still working out of were very open. One was a CrossFit gym who basically said, come in, train people wherever you want, $20 a session. Great, easy peasy. The other is basically like a mom and pop 24/7 gym. One guy owns it. They've got way too much equipment. They have one of every single toy, and that's a flat fee. This much per month, and you can train literally infinitely.
The best fit.
Yeah, that's the place. I've transitioned almost everyone over there. Honestly, the only people left at the CrossFit gym are a Olympic weightlifter who lives 2 blocks away from it. So it's a perfect place to train that, and it's very easy for them. And you'll love this. Someone who has to take her dog to work with her a couple times a week. She's a vet. And wouldn't you know it, CrossFit gym's totally cool with us bringing dogs in.
Of course. That's I was gonna say, of course they are. All right. So, and now let me talk to you when you were, because now you have the opportunity to renegotiate this deal. Now, again, it was a great deal for you, $35, a session, flat rate, kick over. Were you able to keep that same margin at this mom and pop 24/7 gym?
It's way better because it's a flat fee and it's $600 a month, Stu. Like it's nothing.
Oh, so he just has essentially you're just a tenant. No, what did you sign?
What did I sign? I'm not positive I signed anything.
Okay, let's definitely talk about that. Go ahead. I want you to make sure you get something in writing at some point. Whenever something's a great deal, just go and you pay for the lawyer to draft it up, and essentially it's a sublease agreement.
Yeah.
Sublease agreement, get a broker can't, there's literally after this, I could send you a generic sublease agreement and you can get it signed or find a contract lawyer in Philly. But yeah, that's even look at my boy Matt Becker with Jimler. Yeah, I could do an intro with you and him. But whenever you got a great deal, it's like this is awesome, but it also doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
Because what a lease would do for you, no matter what, if you get that lease and then you go and record it with the Register of Deeds in your city, if he sells the building, if he sells the company, they have to honor your lease.
Yeah,
so
that's a really
just
good
gives
point.
you a little bit of protection. And it's always like, this place, I can't see him again, right? You didn't think that shit was going to close down in 6 days either, right? So
yeah, I've already lived through this.
Yes, just a little preventative maintenance. This again, Evan Lindsay, he's a consultant like I am in the industry, a metabolic franchisee, great dude, absolutely. My favorite quote from him, and maybe he stole this, I don't know, but I attribute it to him. Move fast and break shit. Just don't break things the same way twice. So I don't want to see you out on your ass again in another scenario, because that's hard. Moving clients one time is one thing, but if you get into that spot where you're bouncing around, that can get difficult. Now, let me ask you this. So now you've got this 24/7 gym, because previously at the CrossFit gym, if people wanted to work with you, they were a group client, and then they want to start working with you, and let's say they exclusively went that route, the owner probably, he didn't want that necessarily. He was making $35 every time they came in, which is probably more than he made per class every time they came in anyway. But still, that probably was that an awkward scenario? Because I got to imagine now you have wide open, you have this entire trough of people coming and going. They don't know shit about fuck when it comes to fitness in there. And are you able to snipe clients?
You mean from the 24/7
gym? Yeah.
Yes, to a degree. There's a bunch of other trainers who work there, so at any given time, it's totally normal for there to be like 4 or 5 other people working.
Okay.
It's everyone seems to have their own kind of style, which is actually really nice because I don't feel like any of us are competing with anyone else. The
Yeah,
way I work, especially with all the like chronic pain, setback, movement restrictions and stuff, like bodybuilder specialist Chris and I, we're not going to have the same clients. We're not after the same clients. We would totally just refer people to each other if the
sure.
right person came up. So it's actually a really good environment for that. But yeah, I've had people just walk in and be like, "Hey, I'm looking for a trainer and I'm just working out." Like, well, I'm a trainer. You want to have a chat? And just gotten clients that way, which I've been given the thumbs up. The owner said like, if people are like wander in because it's literally 24/7. There's not someone
Yeah.
at a desk. You can just walk through the door and you're in a gym looking around. And yeah, if you're there and they're the right person for a conversation, then do it.
So essentially, it's a staffless model. He's not paying front desk or anything.
Correct. I mean, there's like cleaning staff and things like that, but no one's there to
Yeah.
catch you when you walk
So
in.
it's a staffless model. The members pay a fee to use the equipment, and trainers pay a fee to go ahead and be in there and use
Yeah,
the
exactly
equipment as
right.
well. Those are fun models, man. Those are, I mean, it's depending on the economics of it and the real estate and his cost, those are really interesting open gym models, right? Completely hands off, right? Um, do you like it? Like if you could go back and get the original gym some open, they didn't close versus this, is there, do you have a preference?
I think I like this a lot more. It's a lot more freeing. I get to make all the decisions. I get to set all the standards. I think I stayed at the last place way too long, partly because it was so comfortable. Like they basically let me do whatever I want. I had all this gear that I stored there. I had a big office. I like it was easy. It was easy and it was comfortable, but I was also on like I hated coaching the group classes at the end. I was unfulfilled by parts of it. There was just lots of stuff not done exactly the way I wanted to do it, which is, people like you and me, that's always a little bit tough. We're sitting there like, why? Like there's been a pile of wood under this bench for 11 months that we said we were going to use for a project and it's still there and it makes me angry every time I see it. What are we doing? And now everything's my standard, everything's my fault, everything's my responsibility, and I'm happier that way.
How do you see, because again, you and me, we both have like, what Paul Jarvis would call this company of one model, right? Like we've just created jobs for
Yeah.
ourselves similar to that of a doctor or a lawyer, and they have no problem getting paid hourly because the hourly rate is high enough, right? Like people
Mhm.
are like, oh, you don't want to get paid out. Like you do if it's high enough, you don't mind. So how do you think of what Justin does in 2034, 10 years from now? How does this evolve? Is it still very technician based? Like what are your thoughts of that?
I think we're pulling away from in person to more and more online and more really high end premium. I really like doing super holistic solutions for people, but doing it well, I believe, requires, lifestyle management as well as a bunch of the movement fitness stuff. So you've had chronic pain, your back hurts when you run, and you're fighting with your wife all the time. I already know your sleep is shit, and I'm curious about what you're eating, and I want to know how you deal with relationships at work. I'm not pretending to be a therapist, but we can work on all of this stuff. And if we work on all of that stuff combined with the right exercise movement program, not only can we get you running again, but we can actually make you a better father. And that sounds like inspiring work, but I want to do that for, 10 or 15 people. That kind of work doesn't and shouldn't scale the way I want to do it. So I don't want to do it for even 50 people.
I've always been curious on that, with what I do in the consulting. I can only take my goal. I want to work with like one-on-one, like an hour of time or 30 minutes of time, 40 hours a month. That's where I'm happiest. And I've been super diligent. I even have software like that lawyers use. I actually got it from my lawyer buddy. It's essentially like I'm punching the clock. So when I'm working, like, so let's say you're my client and I'm sending you a Loom video or I'm updating your P&L or doing something, I turn it on, turn it off. So I actually am able to the minute tell you how much time I actually spend per client. So they pay me a monthly retainer, and I know how much time I'm spending per client. In that model, with what you just said, your evolution, I've always been curious. how much time do you think one client in that, because again, it's not, I don't want to call it life coaching because I feel like that's such a negative taboo to
Yeah.
it, but it's a broad, you're like, you're like the executive concierge to their fitness lifestyle or their better lifestyle, essentially. How much time do you think that takes per client in a month? Like how much, like, so when you're thinking of, okay, like 15 people, how much time would be spent on someone in your predicament or projection, the fitness, the injury, the be a better dad, all that?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with how adept you are at actually the technical stuff, like doing the programming and getting it in and sending the feedback and all of that. I've been doing this. I mean, I've been in True Coach. I started in Fitbot. It used to be called Fitbot for
Dude, I was one of their first paid people to make videos for them on YouTube. And Casey Jenks is one of my favorite people. Yeah, those guys are great.
yeah, they're awesome. But I've been in there for at least 8 years, so I can kind of like program at the speed of thought, and I'm really adept at it. Right now, an online client is a couple of hours a month. It's I usually think of it like 30 hours a week is pretty good. And there's in it people freak out when they hear me say that sometimes because like how could you do really good work 30 hours a week? There's definitely days where one client's program has taken me 90 minutes because I have to figure some things out, or we have a long check-in call or stuff like that. But 90% of the time, plan A is really good because I'm really good. So it's bang, 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 about 30 minutes a week.
Yeah, I have conversations with friends that that are traditional 40-hour week people, and they'll talk about 40 hours a month. Like, how do you fucking do anything? I'm like, when this is all I do, I'm incredibly efficient in my time. And because I don't have 9 other coworkers wanting to go grab a coffee with me or talk to me about the fucking Browns game or whatever it is, I'm fucking siloed in here. I mean, like literally nobody bothers me. It's crazy how inefficient I think a traditional workplace is. Like, I don't mind the work from home thing. Like turning this fucking garage into the studio for this was the best thing I have ever done for my productivity. But yeah, it's, people are like, oh, 30 hours a week is like, why in comma, people who solve problems faster get paid more. You want next day shipping, it costs more. I build my house in 4 months versus 9, I have to pay more, right? Like, when is speed a bad thing?
Exactly right. And that's the expertise, right? Like that's the masterful part. If you could walk in and someone said, "Well, I can solve your problem in 10 minutes." And the other guy's like, "Well, this is going to be, a 3-hour process." I take the 10-minute guy all day. If it's the same result, like, "Oh, you can do this in your sleep with one hand tied behind your back. My problem's
Sure.
boring to you." That's
Yeah.
who I want to work with. And that's
I
where
think
I'm at with a lot of this stuff.
I agree. And I think expertise and experience is where it is, because then people think of like 7-minute abs, dude, 5-minute abs. And like, that's obviously not what we're
Yeah.
talking about, right? We're not
No.
talking about like constantly just playing to someone's desire to not commit or
No.
desire to not put in a lot of work for something. Um, it's so funny. But yeah, I was curious on that. Like, because I've heard a lot of people say similar things that since COVID have found very financially freeing careers, companies of one, jobs, whatever you want to call them, businesses, working remotely with people. And a lot of them I've talked to is kind of like talk about, okay, I want to kind of expand this thing. Everyone's got a wearable, right? I can pretty much have every client give me a set of data. And are there products out there now where, like, regardless of what wearable, 8 sleep mattress, fucking whatever, are you as a coach able to start aggregating and pulling data from that and having, I mean, like, I just envision like a SaaS product kind of dashboard where you have every client in there and it syncs up to their fucking wearable and you're able to see how much they're sleeping and all this versus it being like self-reported.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely coming. I mean, there's elements you can already do that with, right? You can suck in their what's the
Whoop.
flipping macro connector nutrition program? I can't remember
Macro.
now.
Oh, macro stacks?
One
No.
of those. There's a few of them that, like True
My
Coach
Fitness
can already pull
Pal?
that stuff in. Yeah, MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
You can just link them. So as you enter it over here, it just sucks in, and I see your nutrition come in. And I
Got
think
it.
there's going to be more and more of that as everything kind of becomes integrated, and it can be less self-reporting, which honestly is better because people are terrible at reporting their stuff.
On the last podcast, one of the questions I asked you is like, did you, you're in the B2C world here still, but at some point, when you've had success, other people are going to recognize that we're CrossFit coaches or still are CrossFit coaches. How much B2B work have you done any B2B work? Are you actively doing B2B work and consulting people and things like that? Yeah, talk to me about that. Have you ventured into that role yet?
Some very formally, some very informally. So informally, I get caught, I get hit up on a pretty regular basis, people who have questions, and I try and if you're listening to this, like hit me up, DMs are open. I try and be as helpful as I can. Like if I can provide value for free and save you a couple of the mistakes I made, I am very happy to do that. I only got here by breaking absolutely everything, as you said, as fast as I can. I love failing fast and I'm good at it. And I try and learn from those lessons. I would love to help people save a few steps. I also, Active Life, Dr. Sean Pastuch's company brought me on as a part of their sales team. So I sell a lot of their pro products now, and I get to do consulting. I'm probably on 10, 15 calls a week with people who are
Cool.
either considering doing what I'm doing, taking their staff in this direction, some element of that.
Yeah. I mean, but never your own brick and mortar, furthest thing from what you'd want at this point.
I'm really hesitant to do it. It doesn't sound attractive. I don't want to sign a 5-year lease at all. 3 years ago, I probably would have, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. I mean, I tried to buy the last gym, the owner who shut it down was the second owner. And I worked there when the first owner sold it, and I tried to buy it and I was refused. They wouldn't even give me a price.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm very glad I didn't do it now, because I was absolutely ready to go all in and take out a loan and go crazy. And yeah.
It, I've had only a couple in the past couple of years where I've had someone successful online wanting to go brick and mortar. And I'm always like, what problem are we solving with it? And neither of those 2 or 3 case studies were able to provide this answer to this, a logical one. But like, you're doing a thing and you believe by having the brick and mortar, you can make more money. Okay, yeah. So revenue goes up. But what also, almost to a 1-to-1, also goes up? The operating expenses, the rent, the insurance, the people, the variables. When you're online, you're convenient to everyone in every zip code. When you get a brick and mortar, you're only convenient to a certain population of people. And it's like, short of there being some other play where like, oh, well, we have a crazy merch business and 50% of the building is going to be inventory. Like, unless there's some other thing
Yeah.
there, I don't understand why anyone who is, I give Sean shit for this constantly still, right? Sean going from his online thing and then opening the flagship. I mean, I get it, I understand, but it's like, it's such backward logic, I think, in most scenarios. Sean's makes sense with the overall goal of what he's
Yeah.
doing with Active Life, but in other scenarios, I can't connect the dots or make the math work.
Yeah. Active Life is very special because they're going to open 1,000 of those. But for me, it's like, I don't want to fix the toilets. I don't want to worry about the zoning. I don't like all I want to do is the work I want to do. And when I'm doing, like you said earlier, right? If you can when people pay you for your time, it's because when you can bring your full focus and energy and the decades of experience you have and focus it only on their problem, that's incredibly valuable. A few minutes of you going through their stuff has saved them weeks and months of heartache. And that's what I want to do with people. Like, let me bring all of my focus and all of my energy and everything I've learned and all the however many dozens of certifications I have, and just look at your problem. And if I'm also wondering about the property tax bill and when the plumber's going to come fix the stuff, some part of me isn't doing that. And I really
Sure.
like being able to go all in that way.
I get it, man. I get it. Let me ask you this. When the ship went down and you obviously landed on your feet, did you have other coaches reaching out to you? Because were there other career coaches there, or was it all like part-time?
It was overwhelmingly part-time. There was uh I don't know that anyone there had another job, but I don't know that they think of themselves as career coaches.
Interesting. It's not cheap to live in Philly.
It is not.
Yeah. So I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you gotta be, doing something. I was trying to think of like, when you left to land on your feet, do you keep in contact with those coaches still?
Yeah, some of them I hear from. I'm actually sharing a client with one of them because he wanted to do some more one-on-one work. So I kind of brought him in as technically he's an assistant feel strong coach, but he gets paid. He has his own setup with someone. The money doesn't flow through me. I just do the programming and kind of keep on what they're doing, and it's happening. I know he's working. That guy's working part time at a CrossFit gym and doing a little bit of one-on-one work. Another part timer is also working part time at a CrossFit gym. I think he must have another job because I think he's only doing a few classes a week, and that isn't enough to do anything. And the owner's he's a one-on-one coaching business now.
With it in a company in one model, the one thing that's difficult, I talked about this with like my buddy Boris, Metcon Creative, he's the brand design. Boris company in one, and he's Australian. Those fuckers take holidays like it's crazy how many fucking vacations and holidays those guys take. But me before we hit record, you share me tomorrow, you leave for vacation.
Yeah.
How do you, for you, how do you do that with your work? If you're going to be gone for 7 days, when normally in 7 days you'd have 30 hours, whatever it is, of work with people, is it just, hey, I'll be less available, I'll be not available at all? Do you have to cram a ton of work before the vacation and then play catch up afterwards? Walk me through how that looks practically.
It partly depends on where I'm going and how long I'm doing it for. I've done it a few different ways. I have absolutely done it where I don't tell anyone anything. If I'm going somewhere that I know I'm going to have reliable internet connection, I don't have like a jam-packed schedule. Like for example, there was a year or two ago, we took a week at the beach, basically rented a beach house, beautiful balcony. We're just going to walk out on the beach. 8 hours later, we're going to walk home, have a nice meal. That's the whole day. I get up a little bit early. I naturally do that anyway. I walk out on the balcony with my phone, do a bunch of check-ins, adjust some programs, leave some feedback. Maybe it takes an hour. People are good for a day or two. And I'm just like, I do that rolling. People never even know I was going. I'm going to the British Virgin Islands tomorrow at time of recording. And I've been told that internet is probably not going to be reliable. So I just told everyone, hey, I'm going on vacation for a week. I've been told internet service will not be reliable. You will have all of your programming and all of your adjustments through 5 p.m. on Friday. We're recording on Friday. I'm leaving on Saturday. You're not going to hear from me for a week. All of your stuff is there for at least 2 weeks. When I get back, I have time blocked aside to go through all of your feedback, everything that's happened, and I'll adjust the week going forward. And being that straightforward and transparent has worked very well. I got responses from almost everyone. And to a person, the response was, sounds cool. Have a good vacation.
It's so funny because when I tell the gym, like this year, I think I was the most successful in getting people to take the most amount of time off around the holidays. And I generally get some feedback. And then normally I work with someone, if it's like several years worth, second year, third year, they're really bought into it then. And they're fucking like, that second back half, that the end of November and then that end of December going into January 3rd for this year was just great. It gives people, it's the only time of the year you can really get away with that for the most part, like where no one's going to challenge you on it. It's for the most part, it's going to be fine. But even this, like, the company in one models like what you and me do, those random vacations and this and that, it's like, you just let people know, hey, I'm out of the office. Give them enough heads up. If there's something pressing, boom, let's get it in by this date. But it's also too, it's not like if you were managing and running the suicide hotline, that's a different story, right? Like, can't really have down hours. You got to have someone available there 24/7. But the other thing too, I think in business and then also with fitness, and because I had some personal training clients that were like it's going to be okay. It is 100% okay. I wrote this movement for you and you went to the gym and that piece of equipment was broke. You're going to be okay. And at this point, slightly autonomous enough to figure out what to do instead of that, right? Even though you can't reach me in that minute. The worst thing in like client services is to have a client that literally is sucking from your tit for every fucking answer, right? And if that, and that's something I've always been like, my goal is to educate you during this whole process so that you come to solid conclusions. I'll likely come to maybe better ones or maybe the same ones, but I will just do it more efficiently. But I'm really happy. I love that for you because this is it. You get to take your laptop, boop, close it, and the business goes with you, right? So I'm pumped for you, man. I'm sorry that gym closed. That's par for the course right now, especially post-COVID still. But good for you fucking landing on your feet.
I really appreciate it. It was so interesting and so fun. I'm good in a crisis. I enjoy it. I actually did they're all gone now, but I did like 7 days of stories. Like, hey, So I just lost my job. I don't know what's going to happen. You're going to come on this journey with me. And I've had people, including people like not even close to the industry, come up to me, whatever we are, 5, 6 months later, like, I remember when you did that. That was awesome. I
Yeah.
learned stuff from that. I learned stuff that helped me when I got laid off. That was so cool. Good. I'm glad it helped.
Would you say the number one thing is the preventative maintenance, the fact that you did have the online, right, which is your insurance policy essentially, right? That online's not going anywhere. If you hadn't had the online, what would you have done? Is there anything you would have done differently?
I mean, I had enough savings that I think I still would have done the same thing, but it would have been a lot scarier. What I'm glad didn't happen and I could see happening is feeling like I was stuck in a corner and had to take another fucking group job. Like, okay, now I'm going to be the low man on a totem pole in a CrossFit gym at fucking 44 years old. Like, just saying it out loud makes me want to put my head through a wall. Like, or do am I like, is that it? Is fitness not for me? What do I do? Does Stu need an assistant? What the fuck am I going to do? So yeah, having the online, actually, building the business I wanted to build already, even in that smaller way, even inside someone else's gym, was huge.
Awesome. Justin, man, for anyone who you're kind of speaking to their soul, they want to know how you've done what you've done and they want to learn more. Where can they best reach you?
Instagram's the best. At Feel Strong Fit on Instagram. DMs are open. I answer absolutely everybody unless you're a Russian sex robot.
And in that case, Justin then forwards it to my DM, and I will then have that conversation with the Russian.
That's your department.
Robots. Yeah, that's my department. Justin, dude, it's always good jamming with you, man. Next time I'm in Philly, we'll 100% get together, and I hope you have a great fucking vacation, dude.
Thank you so much, Stu. I'll talk to you soon.